concluding with a 1 minute each with closing remarks. So we're going to start. We pulled at random the order for which they'll be speaking today. The first candidate is Jay.
Hello, my name is Jay Shin. I thank the Burnaby Interagency Council for arranging this debate. Today's theme is on how we can make Burnaby a community for all residents. My answer to this is that people need to feel secure. A big part of security is being financially secure. Whether you are retired or working, the Liberal government has been eroding your financial security. Do you notice how everything is getting more expensive? From gasoline to restaurants to groceries. I want to stop this and promote policies to make life more affordable for people here in Burnaby and across the country. I came to Canada at an early age as an immigrant and am living the Canadian dream. I grew up in Burnaby and worked hard for my family grocery store and worked hard through university to get my degrees in engineering and law. As a business lawyer, I brought investments into Burnaby and Canada, which has created sustainable, good-paying jobs. We all know the Liberal government has been mismanaging the public finances in their term in office. Look no farther than the $4.5 billion they spent on the pipeline. And even this, they overpaid for. This is money for you and I will pay in the form of higher taxes. By no means is this the only way the Liberals have made your life less affordable. Do any of you out there use monthly transit passes? Just remember, the Liberals took away the transit tax credit, making your life that much less affordable. Every spending promises you hear, every bit of government mismanagement leads to the same story. You pay for it with higher taxes. When the Liberal government raises taxes and increases the cost of living for everybody, life becomes less affordable.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Jaadu TV.
Bonsoir, mes amis. 大家过年好. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Valentine Wu, the independent candidate for the coming federal by-election. My independent means I work only for you, not any parties. Your voice, my action. Your voice is more important. Speak out to be heard. United to be strong. I can help. So I'm here to run for the job as a member of parliament. So I went to the website of the House of Commons. What are the responsibilities of MP? Talking about and explaining the government policies, listening to ideas, proposals, and complaints, reconciling opposing viewpoints, get action all of government, explaining or examining how government is doing. So that are the responsibilities of the job we are run for. Okay, so if I were elected as MP, I will share with you one principle, two promises, three focuses. One principle is honest and strong. We have to be honest, face reality, have to be strong, not so weak. And two promises. One is I will donate half of my annual salary of MP to Burnaby South, non-profit charitable organization. And I will spend at least half of our work time to face directly with you, people. And the three focuses is I talk about. The first is money, second is safety, third is power. One is money, develop a sustainable economy. That's real sustainable money, high quality. Safety is improve law enforcement and protect the vulnerable.
Thank you very much.
Okay, power is huge and work together. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Lauren.
Social inclusion is this evening's theme, and I'm very pleased to be included here tonight. Our message of unity and working together as Canadians first is resonating throughout our country, and it's blazing a new trail in Burnaby South, except with the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, who banned me from their nonpartisan town hall debate. I hope there's no mistake in delivering my flyers this week, because we will be checking. The problem with some people's version of inclusion is they use it as a weapon to muzzle those who don't share their views. That is not how we do it at the PPC. The ideological left has lost the battle of facts and ideas, so now they think that their feelings should silence their opposition. They want me to be silent, and that's not going to happen. I will speak the truth, no matter how strange this may seem to my opponents, who only tell fairy tales. They talk out of both sides of their mouth. In tonight's inclusive debate, we have Liberal Richard Lee, whose party has been spending Canadian taxpayer money like drunken sailors and ruining the Canadian economy, so that now we have 46% of Canadian families that are within $200 of insolvency. Not a good situation. The PPC believes that we must help Canadians first. We have NDP Jagmeet Singh, who believes that we need more taxes and more overspending, so our children will be crushed under a mountain of debt. Our kids deserve better, Mr. Singh. Lastly, we have Conservative Jay Shin, who thinks that telling Canadians that it's not my place here to state what my position is. Those were his words, when his position happens to be politically inconvenient. Sorry, but avoiding the tough questions is not what Canada needs right now.
Thank you,
What
Laura.
Canada needs is Maxime Bernier and the People's Party of Canada. Thank you.
So our next speaker tonight is Jenny.
Thank you very much. So, we live in an incredible community. Burnaby South is beautiful. We've got incredible events where people come together at Bonser Recreation Center. We've got beautiful celebration of our diversity at places like Crystal Mall. So we've got a lot to be proud of. But the people that live in this community are also faced with a lot of problems. There's a lot of things that people are struggling with. And one of the biggest things that we're struggling with is affordability. Life is getting more and more expensive. It's harder and harder to make ends meet. One of the biggest parts of affordability that's touching so many people in this riding, so many people are being hurt by this, is housing affordability. When I talk about housing affordability, I mean all forms of housing. There's homelessness, serious concerns about not having a home. There's folks that are low income and can't find a place to rent. Even professionals, young professionals are leaving the province because they cannot find a place. Forget owning a home, they can't find a place to rent as well. There's seniors, families, everyone is struggling. Now, faced with this crisis, Mr. Trudeau and the Liberal government just made up numbers. They made up numbers in the House to say how many people they helped. And then when confronted with that made up number, they said, okay, we were just exaggerating because it sounded better. They literally said that. They just exaggerated the numbers because it sounded better. Now that's not going to help people out. That's not going to make people's lives better. That's disregarding and neglecting the concerns that people are faced with. What we need to do is start building homes again. We used to build homes federally. We used to invest and build affordable cooperative housing, public housing, non-market housing, affordable homes that people can actually rent and own. That's the future. That's what we've got to do. And while we're on it, we also need to address the fact that healthcare is becoming more and more unaffordable. We need to invest in healthcare so that people have the services they need. And we need to invest in a green economy so that we can build great jobs and also reduce our emissions. That's the future.
Our next speaker tonight is Terry.
Good evening. I didn't think I could hear everybody, but
Yeah, here.
my name is Terry Grimwood. My family's been in Burnaby for 80 years. I've thought about doing this for my whole life. I served for 4 years on the North Vancouver City Council when I was a university student. I learned in those 4 years that housing is a municipal concern. And they have the power, and I think the new mayor, Mr. Hurley, I've met with him, he was very gracious. He will make it happen for you here in Burnaby. This election is not about Burnaby. This election is about Canada. And I couldn't see any of the parties doing what I wanted to do. And I formed Canada Fresh. I've been across the country twice. I've seen the forest fires burning. I've watched the planes sitting at Cold Lake, and the federal government and the armed forces doing nothing. I was in Vernon when they rolled in there to help mop up this summer. We need to basically take charge. We have an armed forces, and I want to see them doing civil work in Canada for 4 years. We have to rebuild this foundation. One of my platforms, and my platform will be in its entirety in the local newspaper the Thursday before the election. Make sure you have a look at it. Now, I realize I'm only speaking to about a dozen people here because everybody's come to support their candidate. But Canada Fresh, I didn't run in this election to get elected. I might get elected. It looks pretty good. But I came to influence you to encourage the other parties to adopt some of my ideas.
All right, thank you.
That's what. Sorry?
That's fine.
Oh, thanks.
Thank you. Our final candidate to do their opening remarks is Richard.
Thank you, Stephen. Good evening. I'm very pleased to be here today and in this meeting, as well as to see so many familiar faces in the audience. I've been living in Burnaby for 32 years with my family, and I've been MLA for 16 years, all terms, serving the community. I've worked with many non-profit organizations, including the Burnaby Community Association, Society, and also I have been also looking forward to work with many non-profit organizations in Burnaby again. I know that Burnaby South actually need a strong voice in Parliament. I want to be that voice to address your concerns, including affordable housing, poverty reduction, transit, job creation, infrastructure funding, as well as ensuring that we have a clean environment for our kids and grandkids. In 1986, I got married and moved to Burnaby. Since then, I live here. And I have been having a family here, 3 kids, and one of my sons is still in ECIT. So I'm in this community. They were all born and raised in this area. Over the years, I have the honor of serving the community and also listening to the concerns of the people in this area. Not only in public life, as I mentioned, I also, before my office joined as an MLA, I actually work with many non-profit organizations, including the Burnaby Horticulture Society and etc. Thank you very much.
So now the candidates will be asked a series of questions that were brought to us from you as the audience. And the first question will be answered first by Valentine. And the candidates have 1 minute to answer these questions. The first question is, how will you contribute to reconciliation in Canada and in our community? So that's reconciliation with Indigenous peoples.
Your voice is very important. Speak out and communicate effectively. That's my solution. But your voice, your solution is more important. When I worked at Rich Auction rich brother auctioneer as a solution architect, my boss told me one thing. Do not try to push your solution. What we want is our solution. Okay? People work together. The answer, that's a lot of problems, issues. I live in here over 15 years. I think only Mr. Singer and I can vote. Singer moved here last November, right? I'm living here over 15 years. I can vote. I know all issues here. I didn't talk about specific issues. Because I know solution is among yours, not sufficient, not the government. You have the solution. You speak out about the housing. Somebody think it's affordability. Some think it's an investment. How we let those money go to some investment, right?
Thank you, Valentine. That's wonderful. So just a reminder, the question is, how will you contribute to reconciliation in Canada and our community? Laura Lynn, you're next.
I had the extreme honor of meeting Chief Kenny Blacksmith in North Battleford, Saskatchewan recently. I discussed with him over several hours what are the continuing issues between the Indigenous and coming to reconciliation in our nation. And I found out that some of the things that are still hurtful is that the government has made promises that are still not being honored, and some treaties are still not being honored. I don't know all of the particulars about that, but I do believe it's important that when word has been given to any of our Canadian citizens that we must honor that. In our home, we've had many Indigenous youth that came and stayed with us. They were from tragically broken families in some cases. We love them. I still get calls. Precious boy named Michael, if you knew what had happened in his family, you wouldn't even know how he could still function. He's such an amazing kid, but he calls me, and we need to reconcile what has been promised to those people.
The path of reconciliation requires us to first acknowledge that there's been a lot of harm done, historic and ongoing. Indigenous communities face and suffer incredible levels of inequality. And this is not a coincidence. This is the impact of colonialization. And I've been able to see up close and personal some of the impacts that this has had on communities. Whether it's in northern communities that have water that's been poisoned because of companies that have left behind mercury contamination, and they're surrounded by beautiful lakes and rivers, but none of that water is drinkable because it's been poisoned. Whether it's communities that have schools that have mold growing in those schools, something that we would never expect in any other city. Here in Burnaby South, we know that none of our schools would ever have mold, and if there was ever that circumstance, we would immediately build a new school. The basic things that we require in society are the things that Indigenous communities have the right to have. And we've got to be serious about it. Broken promises and broken words are not good enough. We need to commit to action, and that's what I'm committed to do.
Thank you. Terry.
I'm not going to repeat what has already been said, but in my life experience, when I was 20 years old, I got elected to the North Vancouver City Council, and we had to deal with the Squamish Band. And I wrote a paper at that time that suggested the Squamish Band should become a municipality. It fell on deaf ears, and here, just a few months ago, they announced that they were going to have a council. I don't know if anyone here in the audience read that, but all the bands in Canada, in my opinion, need to become municipalities so that they can participate on a level playing field and get the funding that municipalities get in the normal course in Canada. They have to join Canada. We're all Canadians. We're all Canadians.
Thank you, Terry. Richard?
The Liberal government takes very seriously the relationship between Indigenous people and the government. There has been advisory, water advisory lifted up to 78 of those mines actually, the water mines actually lifted. So the water, make sure the water is safe. And as well as another 62 will be lifted in soon. Myself, my grandfather actually farmed in the North Grimwood in UBC Dunbar area for over 30 years. So our family has some connection to the Aboriginal community as well. So I think it's important to respect each other and to learn about the culture of each other. That's very important. Myself, I also attended the Native Education Center. I know that education is very important for our Aboriginal community, so how to help them, the people to get, the youth especially, to get the necessary skill training in our community.
Thank you,
that's,
Richard.
That's important.
Thank you.
Hi, I believe that we need to respect the contributions made by our Indigenous people here in Canada. And there has been a lot of past wrongdoings, and those have to be recognized and reconciled. We have, Canada that I know has made a lot of progress in this regard. And there we have Supreme Court decisions that respect the rights of First Nations people. We need to consult with them and accommodate them in accordance with the Supreme Court judgments in this regard. So we have to respect the law that we have, as laid by the court, and we have to make sure that the rights of Indigenous people are fully respected. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. So our next question will be answered first by Laura Lynn. And the question is, women make up 51% of the Canadian population. Yet a woman in Canada is killed every 7 days by an intimate partner. 1 in 5 Canadian women have experienced violence. As an MP, how would you address the issue of violence against women?
It's very true that the point at which a woman is most vulnerable is when she actually decides that she's going to leave an abusive situation. She's actually in more danger than when she is in the home. I believe this is very, very serious. There are very important strategies that have to be taken in order to defend and uphold women. Women in these circumstances feel like they are powerless. They feel like they have nowhere to go, and often finding solutions, and even to the point of shelters or women's safe shelters are not even available with no beds. It's an increasing issue. I think we have to deal with what is going on with respect to men and women's roles in our society. We have to deal with the factor that they need to have full assurance that if there is an issue, they need to be supported and believed when these things happen. Sometimes churches have not been the ones who supported them, but it needs to happen.
Thank you. Jamie.
Not only are women more than half the population, the majority of women have experienced violence in our country. The majority of women in our country have experienced some form of violence in their lives. That is a staggering fact, and it's so wrong, there's no words for it, that so many people have to face violence, whether it's in the workplace, in the family setting, that this violence exists in our society. There's many ways we can tackle it. We need to have supports in place. Women who are leaving abusive relationships have to have the supports. We also need to get at one of the root causes for violence against women is an inequity in power, and that's pay equity. We need to ensure that women are paid equally in our society. We also need to address some of the systemic problems. When we have housing crises, they impact those marginalized more. And that means women who are often impacted by the housing crisis. We need universal daycare. We need to implement systems and processes that will actually support women and lift them up who are facing these terrible realities.
and they actually, I think, do a very good job of supporting each other. We just need the physical facilities for them to step into in a moment of crisis. But more than anything, Canadians have to support each other. Sorry to be emotional about this, but we have to support each other. You can see your neighbor. I've done it a few times in my lifetime and been burned, but I'll do it again tomorrow. We have to support each other.
Richard.
Over the years, I've been working with, Margaret Dixon Transition House, now it's called Dixon Transition House, to address the issue of helping women fleeing violence from the family, including the children. So the second stage, first stage, and third stage, they are doing a very good job. So we need to support the organization like that locally, helping women against violence. As well as mentioned, equal work for equal pay, this is also important to raise the status of women. So the Liberal government is moving forward to have a proactive pay equity legislation. So this will help women attaining economic power as well. Of course, we respect. I think there's a program to address the Aboriginal communities, especially. This is a good program. It's called
Thank you, Richard.
the HEIST program.
Thank you. Next is Jay.
Violence against women cannot be tolerated as a society. Any kind of violence against one another, any kind of physical force used in our society cannot be tolerated. We need to protect the weak, not just the women, but the children, from any kind of violence that can be imposed on them. We need to allocate our resources to make sure we have the proper resources, facilities, and programs available to support the weak in our community. Having spent $4.5 billion for a pipeline will not allow us to allocate those resources where it's needed to protect our most vulnerable members of our community. Thank you.
I think related to the 2 points I haven't finished yet is, firstly, the safety. I think through safety, which means we should improve the law enforcement and protect the vulnerable. And the local people, who the South may remember 2017, a girl, Canadian girl was killed in the Central Park, right? 1 year after, there are 2 life-threatening accidents, all we call the Grimwood, happened in the Central Park again. So where is our law enforcement? If RC MP is not effective, dismiss it. That's like service thing. How about Burnaby? What do you think about it? To improve the law enforcement, it's not a museum icon anymore. We have to use it effectively and protect the vulnerable. Same thing. And the next one is power. We should respect and work together. The women united, then you will get more power. That's my answer. Thank you.
So our next question will be Jaadu, who will be answering first. Thank you. Many Burnaby residents are struggling with inappropriate, inadequate, and unaffordable housing. How will you, as the MP for Burnaby South, bring solutions to our community?
Now, without a doubt, the number one issue that I hear at the doorsteps when I'm at community events is the housing crisis. It's truly a crisis, and it's hitting people in all walks of life. I remember meeting with a family, and they told me that they've got a home, but they're worried that their kids will never be able to have a home, or even rent a home, or rent a place to live in the city that they've grown up in and that they work in. So what we need to do is we need to start building homes again. Back in the 70s, back in the late 40s, our government at the federal level used to invest in housing. We used to build housing, we used to build homes. We need to do that once again. I've announced a bold initiative. We need to build 500,000 affordable units across this country. Non-market, cooperative housing. We need to build these units so that people can have housing. This has got to be a priority. We need to make sure that everyone in our country can access housing. It's a fundamental necessity in our society, and this government has left people behind. They're making up numbers and making up things that they've done when they haven't delivered what people need. I'm committed to doing that.
Thank you, Jeffrey. Karen.
Starting to get my feet here. I'm so proud to be here. This is the first, I didn't get invited to any of the other fall candidates meeting, and I really appreciate getting invited to this one. I've built dozens of houses. I'm a licensed builder, but I'm retired now. But if you want a yacht, I'm still designing yachts. And Burnaby, you know, I'm so proud of Burnaby. They've got $1.3 billion in the bank and $3.4 billion in saleable assets. This is probably the best run municipality in the country. So how can they get housing wrong? Yes. Hey, how can they get it wrong? And you voted NDP all this time.
Housing is a very important issue. I have 3 children. I know that for young people to afford the housing in Longmen is a challenge. The NDP plan, they don't have a plan actually. There's no financial research how to back up that plan. So Liberal is that we have a plan. This is a 10-year, $40 billion housing, national housing strategy. And including that is 100,000 new units across Canada, repairing some affordable housing units, including co-ops and senior homes. And also for the families, it's up to $2,500 per year per household for rent subsidy, direct check to the household. So I think those kind of initiatives will help us increase the supply and also maintain some of this affordable housing in Burnaby, especially in South Burnaby. I hope to bring those starters back to South Burnaby. Thank you.
Jim.
For the Liberal candidate and NDP government to talk about their housing strategy, I find it to be quite disingenuous. Frankly, back in 2015 when Liberals campaigned, they've had many housing promises which they did not fulfill any one of them. And for Mr. Singh to stand here to say that he's going to build 500,000 homes throughout Canada in 10 years, why not 1 million? Why not 2 million? Same numbers without telling us how much it's going to cost the taxpayers. I think that's been totally irresponsible. What we need to do is to make sure that we lower taxes so that we can get ahead and not just get by, and make sure we can invest in our businesses, in our families, to make sure that we can have our children living here and have better jobs for them. Thank you.
The question is about housing, right?
Well, yes, it's around appropriate, adequate, and affordable housing.
So I think the same thing. So your voice is very important. The answer is among yours, not from us. We are serving you, provide support. But I can share with you. So my thinking is that the money issue is to develop a sustainable economy that will solve the housing, poverty, environment, investing. So housing, some people cannot buy, but some part of residents, they want to take advantage of it. They want to sell the housing not 1 million, 1 billion. They want that. How do you think about them? Because they have money, they want to invest somewhere. How can you let them invest? You develop a sustainable economy, new economy. Let the money go their way. So sustainable economy is you develop different types of housing, not marketing, right? Every type, that's sustainable, not just market ownership, co-op. housing, everything. So I think you have answers because all talk is from my friends.
Thank you, Mel.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lauren?
We are here to stand for the federal nomination, not provincial. Housing is a provincial legislated issue. And so what will really help is the plan of the People's Party of Canada put forward by Maxime Bernier to lower taxes, to repeal the carbon tax, to abolish capital gains tax, to get pipelines approved, to abolish interprovincial trade barriers and get people back to work, to improve foreign policy focused on security and prosperity. We need to care. When you are a leader of the entire NDP party, why are you talking about housing, which is provincial? Why are you not talking about lowering taxes? Because your party platform wants to raise taxes. If you care about the people of Canada, then start caring about making real promises to the people.
Taryn will be the first respondent to this question. The question is, how will you support refugee claims? Will you be a national and global champion for those coming to Canada to apply for refugee status and those wanting to come to Canada as a refugee?
Everybody needs to get the local newspaper the Thursday before the election because my platform's there. I have a platform that outlines rural Canada, and that's where immigration needs to go. I'm proposing having a hub every 100 kilometers. Vancouver needs a hub because you can't stay overnight at the bus depot. You get put out on the street. I live on the Sunshine Coast now because that's where I can afford to live. But when I come to Vancouver to go to Kelowna, Greyhound used to leave at midnight. I would arrive at 11 o'clock, expect to get a ticket or expect to get on a bus, and I'd be told no, get turned away, and shown the door. I'd have to spend the night in a Tim Hortons. We need to have the refugees help us build rural Canada. That's where they should go. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
The Liberal government is taking very seriously of the cross-border safety issue. Not unlike the Conservative government, they cut the funding actually by in the order of $390 million for the Canadian Border Service Agency. We actually restored some of this funding, including $173 million, so to ensure that we have proper patrol of our border and also to have a proper screening and helping some of the process across the border. For the asylum claimants recently, the government is taking actions to strengthen some of the ideas on security issues, as well as we know that we cannot give a free ticket to anyone claiming refugee status. For the true refugee, they will get the help. Jen.
I'm an immigrant to Canada. I came here as a little child with my parents. I'm all for legal immigration. We need to, Canada is built on immigration, and we have to recognize that, and we have to make sure that immigration continues to be a vital part of Canada's growth. What I'm against is illegal immigration, illegal border crossers coming to Canada, putting a strain on our immigration process, and makes it difficult for proper immigrants to come here and help build this country. We have Liberal government under their program, they have the family sponsored program where they have to shut down the internet CIC's website after 10 minutes because quota was already filled. While they're processing tens of thousands of asylum seekers at our taxpayers' cost, at the cost of all our future.
children. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. County?
Refugee, I think it's a very important issue we are facing. And people spoke out. There are statistics say over 51%, right, say, right, agreed to review the current policy. And I try to make it clear, anti-immigrant or anti-refugee is not equal to anti-refugee or anti-immigrant policy. Different. Don't mix it up. Okay. And I think people speak out is that we need to review the current system. I agree with that. Because people give us the power, these politicians should listen to the people and do not make any political issue. Law, legal and illegal are different. Against the law and improve the law and based on the law are different. What means the law? Law you have to obey it, otherwise put in jail. Right? That's the law means. You have to be seriously. Okay? And and also Canadian is same as non-Canadian, right? People's value, right? We put Canadian first. We have to protect and play Canadian.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Norman? Did you want to respond to the question?
Yes. I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sure. How will you support refugee claimants? Will you be a national or global champion for those coming to Canada to apply for refugee status and those wanting to come to Canada as a refugee?
It's very clear that Canada loves diversity and we love people. I believe as a Christian that we are to open our houses and our country to foreigners. That is not the issue. The issue is we do need to know who they are. We do need to understand that there are some people who could enter our country who might not share our values. Case in point, Marissa Shen. She's a 13-year-old girl that was murdered right here in Burnaby South in Central Park. I grew up when I was 14, I spent hundreds of hours with my friends. We goofed off a lot, and we spent a lot of time in that park. That precious girl was, her life was taken from her by a refugee. Not all refugees would do such a heinous act, but surely we need to know who is coming into our country. When you are letting 40 to 50,000 people illegally jumping the borders, how do we know who that is? Would we let those same people into our home to sleep on our couches right next to the bedrooms of our children? We need to be safe.
I don't take any pleasure in saying this, so I don't want any applause for saying this. But I'm disgusted by some of the values being espoused on this that I just heard. It's disgusting to hear. Now, we're talking about refugees. We're talking about people who are fleeing danger. These are people fleeing death. These are people fleeing serious situations. We need to have a caring heart, a caring mind when it comes to people that are fleeing such dangerous situations. And of course, we should welcome our hearts and our minds to people coming in, but we can't allow divisive rhetoric to purposely pit one against another. People are clapping when people say we need to turn away illegals. I didn't hear anyone clap when we talked about how our country is built on immigration. Our country is built on immigration. We should celebrate that. We don't need divisive politics that are pit one group against another. We're all here together. Let's take care of one another.
Many familiar faces here, as I mentioned. I have been working together, of course, with Stephen as the organization. I supported SMLA for the Meals on Wheels program, Family Life Institute, Burnaby Multicultural Society. In fact, I co-founded the Burnaby Volunteer Festival 16 years ago with Volunteer Burnaby. So I've been here for 32 years. I know the need of the community. I want to be your strong voice so that we can connect to continue those programs in the community, getting the federal support in order Burnaby South to get in the fair share. I mentioned about transition house. Those are important as well. Housing program is important. Thank you.
Next is Terry.
I'm actually running for Prime Minister. I'm not just running for this. Canada Press is going to have a candidate in every riding. I've been across the country twice. I've got 50 people lined up already. June 1st, we're going to announce our platform, and we have a better platform than the Green, the Liberals, the Conservatives, Mr. Bernier. If you look at our platform, we cover the whole spectrum. The biggest obstacle to housing today, for rental housing, is Revenue Canada. Look up self-supply. As a builder, I built a dozen houses and was not allowed to rent them when the economy changed. I had to sit on them and pay 9% interest for 3 years before I was able to sell them. Revenue Canada is even dictating who's going to be a family doctor today because they're running interference on university students.
Thanks. I want to thank the organizers for putting this event together. Thanks to everyone for attending. We've got a choice in this election. You can choose a liberal backbencher who's going to continue to say the status quo is fine, whose government has made a choice not to address the crisis that we're in, has made people not the priority, instead has prioritized a wealthy corporation seeking to have criminal charges dropped. You can choose conservatives who don't think that the federal government should be helping out people. We should not be investing and lifting people up who are dealing with problems in their lives. Or you can choose New Democrats who believe that it's our job as governments to help people out because they can't solve the problems they're faced with on their own. You can't ask someone to solve the housing crisis on their own when it costs millions of dollars to buy a home. No one can afford to rent a place. These are problems that are solved when we work together. When we come together and take care of one another. When we invest in one another and in the programs we need, and when we build homes once again so that people can find a place to call home. That's what we need to do, and that's what I'm committed to doing, and with your support, we'll make sure it happens. Thank you.
I was just getting warmed up. I'm sorry that it's over. Inclusion in society means treating Canadians with fairness and respect, and understanding the need for freedom and responsibility. It means putting Canadians first and fighting for our values. This means all Canadians. One small interest group cannot tell others how to think. Core values and deeply held convictions must be respected and included in our free Canadian society, or we are not free. We need the right priorities. We have a big problem, Canada. Our borders are not secure. Our children are being buried under crushing debt. Our culture and our values are under siege. Truth has become rare, and lies are a spreading rot. We're done with it. It's time for courage to rise. Your vote will give courage and hope to all Canadians. With Maxime Bernier and the People's Party of Canada, together we will win.
Next we have
Merci de venir. 谢谢光临. Thank you for coming, especially this harsh weather. Once again, I'm independent candidate. My name is Valentine Wu. The Valentine is coming. Yeah, and I only work for you, not any parties. I work for Canadians, especially for Burnaby South. Google find out the responsibilities of this job, Member of Parliament. What is the job? One important thing is reconciling opposing viewpoints. So I'm listening. Your voice, please speak up to be heard, and united to be strong. And we can continue exchanging ideas through online medias. Vote Valentine Wu. Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Thank you. And sorry, lastly, not very important, not least important is it's about the contribution. You can transfer to zubo@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jim.
Well, thank you, Stephen, for moderating today's event, and thank you, Antonio, for arranging this great debate. We are all here, all the candidates and all of you out there are here because we care. We care about Burnaby South. We care about the future of Burnaby South. As a person that grew up here, that have served the community as a business lawyer, helping the small businesses here, and where my parents live here as well, I want to make sure that Burnaby is going to be a Burnaby that I knew when I was growing up. Burnaby that I know is that if you work hard and if you give it the opportunities, you can be successful. The Burnaby that I want to see going forward, the Canada that I want to see is that I want to ensure that our children can believe that through their hard work and through opportunities that they create, they can also be successful. We can only do that by lowering taxes so that we can keep more of our tax money in our pocket to get ahead, not just get by.